I kept asking my friends, why aren't you in a men's group? Like, you're going through a breakup, divorce, or whatever. Why don't you join a men's group? And they're like, that's kooky. That's kooky shit, you know? Because I was sitting in a men's circle here where I live in Squamish, and this guy beside me, this older guy, I'd never seen him at the men's group before, and he came and it looked like he was going to explode. He looked like he was very emotional and he needed to get something off his chest. And the coach, or the guy who was leading the men's group, is a coach, and he started the meeting talking about his own coaching, and then he started bowing and chanting and stuff like that, and then he started talking about topics that he thought were appropriate for today. Meanwhile, this guy beside me is about to explode. I don't know what he's got going on, but like he needs to talk. So I ended up putting my hand up and going, hey, I think this guy needs to talk. So we ended up doing a round of like, hey, what's going on with you kind of thing. It turns out this guy had just watched his father get pulled over the side of their family fishing boat in a net and drowned to death.
Oh.
And so, that reaffirmed what I felt about these groups, which is that like every guy has something on his mind. Why don't we just create a space where he can share that?
Today's man knows who he is, where he stands, and what he aspires to become. Solid in his convictions, owner of his destiny, ever evolving into husbands and fathers our wives and children expect and deserve. We are the masters of our life and the leaders of our homes and community. Welcome to the movement. Stay strong, my brother.
And today I'm so excited that I get to have a special guest with me today, and we're speaking with Sean Galla. Sean is a perennial leader in the men's group arena here in Canada, and we're going to touch base on a bit of his story and some of the things that we're finding that are issues with concerning men today. So Sean, welcome to the podcast, and how are you doing today?
Wayne, I'm doing well. I'm tired, man. I've been pushing on a lot of different projects. So I was going to say I'm great, but then in the spirit of the men's groups, I'm always pushing guys to be honest about what they're feeling. Yeah, I'm feeling run down. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling a little stressed out, but overall things are good,
Right on. That's such a great way to start. We do similar in our Band of Brothers group, and we start our meetings off with them. We call it the MEPS. How are you feeling mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually? Mm-hmm. So, what a great model to start us off today. I really appreciate that.
There you go. Yeah, I could run through it if you want. No,
absolutely. Let's hear it.
No, I'm just kidding around.
I'm just bugging. Yeah. Right on. So listen, you've been doing this for a while. Sounds like you've been running men's groups now for over 10 years, I guess.
Yeah, probably more close to 15 years at this point. Yeah.
Right on. So tell us a little bit about how you got to this point and what attracted you to doing men's work.
Yeah, so I grew up as an athlete. I grew up a hockey player, which you'd like because you're also in Canada. My American friends don't get that as much, but yeah. And I liked that after a game, guys would sit around the locker room and like talk about their relationships or talk about stuff. It's like once they had that shared experience or went to battle together, I like that real talk after or on the bench or whatever. And then I went into my life and I did a bunch of things and I faced a bunch of adversity and I didn't really talk with anybody about it. And I ended up moving down to Mexico for a bunch of years, which was a dream come true, living on the beach and learning how to surf and all that. But it was quite lonely. And so I had friends down there. I looked popular, but I just didn't feel comfortable sharing the details of my life and the things that I was thinking about, the challenges I was facing with the guys that were around me. Even though they were good men and good friends, I just didn't feel like I didn't want to stress them out, didn't want them to judge me, whatever. So I ended up throwing a bunch of friends into a Facebook group, and then the women didn't hang around. It was just the men. We started talking about life stuff, and there were a lot of different kinds of men. Some of them were really successful, and they all felt like, hey, I don't have a place to talk about this stuff either. So it was humble beginnings, just scratching my own itch.
There you go. Isn't that so interesting? I had a similar experience as well, is that it's hard to find an avenue for guys to be able to share stuff, right? And because there's generally mixed rooms, I call it, right? There's women in the room, and sometimes it's challenging. Hey, listen, I'm married. I don't know about you, but it's difficult to have the honest, full-on conversations with your partners, and when you need to. So it's great that you were able to at least recognize some of the challenges.
Yeah, I saw it firsthand when I was out with groups of guys, how we'd be talking about real stuff. And then as soon as a woman would enter the room, their chest would puff out a little bit and they'd like change how they're behaving, and these are guys that are very happy in their relationships and are great dads, but that biological instinct to impress the opposite sex is there, whether we like it or not, in most people. So, at least in the traditional gender norms, anyways. So, like, I just noticed that guys had a even harder time talking about real stuff in front of women, and so, yeah, it just kind of organically became a men's group. I never really wanted it to be that, but it just seemed like that's what worked. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Now you have several groups, right? You've broken up your how you set up your organization. Is you have different pods of men? Is that how it's set up? And have you found that model to be successful for you?
Yeah, we have thousands of guys in the community now, but like we keep the groups really small. We keep them just to 8 or 10 people because that's the size that works. That's the size that gives you enough variety and perspective. You'll have guys from different backgrounds or different, walks of life or different ages, but yeah, that's also the number where it feels like intimate enough where it's not like you're standing up on stage and pulling your pants down or something in front of a big crowd of people.
Yeah, that's so true, right? Absolutely. Yeah. And have you found that it's still, even after all this time, it's still challenging to get guys to open up, or have you figured out the secret recipe to make this happen?
We're definitely a well-oiled machine, so like we're good at it, and I've just always naturally been good at it. That's why I do this. I probably should have been a counselor or a therapist, but instead I got into business and sports and a bunch of the music industry and stuff when I was younger. And so we've surprisingly found it easy, and I'm continually amazed by it. These guys coming into, especially our free groups. So over at mensgroup.com, we have free groups where guys can just check them out and just see how it feels, because for a lot of guys, they've never done anything like that. And it can seem weird, or maybe they went to a weird one in their town. There's a lot of weird stuff out there in this space, a lot of kooky, cheesy stuff, chanting and, I don't know, also all sorts of stuff, and getting naked in the woods. And so we let guys try it out. And I'm always amazed by these guys that come in like this. They're like, oh, yeah, I've never done anything like this. Not sure if I'm going to like it. And within like half an hour, and especially at the end of the meeting, we usually end with like an appreciation round. It's like, you know what? I came into this not sure what to expect, but I'm happy I came here. And I think the reason why is because we lead by example. So like the facilitator will often lead with his own sensitive stuff. And we've trained the facilitators to basically select guys to go first that are willing to share that. And I discovered that early on when I was running this first men's group. You mind me telling this story? Am I rambling? Is this okay?
No, this is awesome.
Cool, okay. Yeah, so I remember like when I just first started with that Facebook group, after like 6 months, the guys are like, we should get together and go on a surf trip or something. So they all came down to my house and slept on my floor, and my girlfriend almost broke up with me because I had like 15 dudes sleeping on my floor. We called it the bullpen for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing that after the adventure, they just wanted to talk about personal stuff, And fuck, Elaine, I forgot the question.
I was just asking about.
Oh yeah, they just wanted to. Yeah, that's right. We just wanted to talk about personal stuff. So it was amazing to me that like after we'd sit in a circle, and I thought that they all wanted to talk about business because we're all entrepreneurs. And then if a guy went early on, if a guy in the first couple guys in the circle would go with a personal matter that was like sensitive, like I remember one of them in one of the first groups I ever ran like that, he was like, hey, my wife just had 3 miscarriages and I have no idea how to support her and she's depressed and I'm, and if a guy led with that and he started tearing up, all of a sudden the next guy would have something similar and the next guy would have something similar. And then in the circles where nobody led with that, it would be all bullshit, surface level questions. So I was like, interesting there. If you lead by example, the guys will observe that they're not being ridiculed or judged for being sensitive, and they'll feel safe to do so themselves. And so that's like the biggest thing I learned about how to get guys to open up.
Yeah, that is so important that you mentioned that. It's about having that safe space, because even as macho as, the peacock chest pumping piece that we get, deep down, truly, we're scared as shit about expressing ourselves. Especially in a place where we may not know the dude that's on that call with us or in a room, and being able to lead by example and having that sense of vulnerability. And that kind of leads me on to something else I noticed in some of it seems
Can I make one point on that, Elaine, quickly?
Absolutely.
So we're getting to the next question. The most beautiful, heartwarming part about running men's groups is realizing that no matter how tough the guy looks, no matter how shut down he is, everybody does want to share their life.
Yeah.
Like that's hardwired within us. So we have like 300-pound biker bros that have tattoos that are in gangs, or like guys calling in from jail, or really hotshot investment bankers or lawyers or doctors. And like if you put them in the right environment, they will share. They do want to share because that's what's hardwired within us. I think that's beautiful and encouraging.
Absolutely. Right on. That's so good. The other thing I noticed I picked up on doing some research for today's call is that you're less about your philosophy is less about the topic for the meeting and more about the organic part of the meeting, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And one of the events that really made me want to start mensgroup.com, the recent one that I've been doing for the last couple of years, is I was sitting in a men's circle here where I live in Squamish, and this guy beside me, this older guy, I'd never seen him at the men's group before, and he came and he looked like he was going to explode. He looked like he was very emotional and he needed to get something off his chest. And the coach, or the guy who was leading the men's group, is a coach, and he started the meeting talking about his own coaching, and then he started bowing and chanting and stuff like that. And then he started talking about topics that he thought were appropriate for today. Meanwhile, this guy beside me is about to explode. I don't know what he's got going on, but like he needs to talk. So I ended up putting my hand up and going, hey, I think this guy needs to talk. So we ended up doing a round of like, hey, what's going on with you kind of thing. It turns out this guy had just watched his father get pulled over the side of their family fishing boat in a net and drowned to death.
Oh.
And so, that reaffirmed what I felt about these groups, which is that like, every guy has something on his mind. Why don't we just create a space where he can share that? We don't need a topic. It's funny because especially I've run probably hundreds and hundreds of groups, maybe even close to 1,000 groups now. I've never had a group using this format where we run out of stuff to talk about. Like out of 10 guys, guaranteed at least 3 or 4 are going to have some big thing. Oh, I got in a fight with my wife again. Oh, I ran into some conflict at work. Oh, I'm struggling to set boundaries. Oh, I'm back on the porn again. I'm addicted to porn. It's like, and because none of these challenges are new, and we're all going through them. They're very similar. Like there's always guys that can chime in. And so, yeah, we don't do the topic thing. We just start the meeting by going, hey man, give us an update on your life. What are the highs and lows been over the last couple of weeks? And then once a guy's done that, I'll ask, hey, is there a particular question you'd like feedback on from the guys? Something that's been on your mind, maybe situation you find yourself in, and the guy might say, no, this week I'm good. Or he might say, oh yeah, I got into it with the wife or whatever. And then we'll spend the rest of the meeting just talking about those things. And without fail, there's always something.
Absolutely. That's such an interesting take on it. We in our version of it, of our men's group of the Band of Brothers, I started the first half of the meeting. I call it half, but the first part of the meeting is a topic that feels important. So this month, for our meeting, we're going to talk about the laws of reaping and sowing. And so they get a little lesson plan, they get a little bit of homework to do. So that starts off to start the conversation. But then the second half of the meeting is what I call the hero's quest, and it's what you're talking about. It's about, okay, what's going on for you? What's your life? What's challenging? And it may have absolutely nothing to do with what the monthly topic is, but it's an opportunity for guys to share. But I really like what you're saying and the impact about just having it be more open and free, because guys then get a sense to talk about what's truly important for them. And it could be in the entire meeting, right?
Yeah. And I think it's just who you're catering to as well, because I've been in men's groups that are with guys that are doing deeper work, and yeah, topics may make sense for them because we might all need to explore boundaries. We might all need to want to dig into our spirituality or whatever. But the whole philosophy behind mensgroup.com was that, and the whole angle we're taking is that all these men's groups that are chanting in the woods and like wearing big beards and flannel shirts, and you have to look like that to join it or whatever, lumberjacks. I kept asking my friends, why aren't you in a men's group? Like, you're going through a breakup, divorce or whatever. Why don't you join a men's group? And they're like, that's kooky shit, And so I thought, what if I start a men's group, mensgroup.com, and just run it right down Main Street, make it really approachable. Just, hey, we're here to have a chat. And so we're targeting a certain kind of person that just wants that, And so I do think there is a place for topics and also for spiritual ceremony, in people's individual growth work or in some men's groups. But for what we're doing, the topic thing didn't really fit. I've tried it a couple of times, and just letting guys, exactly what we say, come have a chat. That's it.
Absolutely.
Chat about guy stuff.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. There are so many different ways that guys are doing men's groups for sure. Absolutely.
I like how you're doing it. It's both. That's cool.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
trying to provide a little bit of education. I think from my background with some of the challenges that I faced, I sit there and go, well, if I'm having a challenge with boundaries, or I can't talk to my wife about sex, I bet you I'm not the only dude that has that issue. So let's
No.
talk about it, and it helps to prime the pump. So you touched
There's,
on a little bit there about
yep.
the a characteristic, and that's why the next question I had for you, like what are the characteristics that you're finding that guys that come to your men's group seem to have more success with than others, those that are lacking that characteristic, or maybe it's a trait, or
Like, you mean the guys that end up overcoming their challenges and kind of see more success in their personal growth journey?
yeah,
Yeah, that's actually a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked that before. Yeah, that's a great question, Elaine. I think it I think it'd probably be the guys that get the most engaged are the ones that get the most out of it, which sounds cheesy, but it's like I see a lot of guys coming in just kind of stand on the sidelines and attending a meeting, but not really making an effort to connect with people outside that. And then I see other people come in and they post a vulnerable question in the forum. People respond. They respond to that. They reach out. They start direct messaging each other. All of a sudden, they've got friends now, new friends that have face similar challenges or you're going after similar goals. They're
yeah,
tuning into like the drop-in groups that we have on different topics. They're really going for it. You can tell they're like making a change in their life, you know. And I feel like a lot of people just put their little toe in, you know,
yeah,
and they're like, oh yeah, no, I need to do this, fighting with my wife, I need to change this, but they're not really ready. But the guys who like get involved, get really engaged, talk to a
yeah.
lot of people, make connections, ask good questions. Yeah, it's almost like you need to be pretty relentless with that stuff to actually make those big changes in your
Yeah.
life.
How do you find that your frequency with your men's group? Do you guys meet on a weekly basis, monthly? How have you structured it that's made sense?
Yeah, we've done it bi-weekly just because there is definitely a place for weekly, for especially for guys that are going through pretty intense stuff, you know.
Yeah,
And so we would like to offer weekly. We just can't afford to,
yeah,
because we'd have to pay facilitators double,
yeah,
essentially. But also, there's also guys that feel like bi-weekly is too often. They prefer monthly. So bi-weekly is right in the middle. It's enough time passes where stuff has changed. Guys have made progress. They can report back, but not so much time has drifted where you forget about the guys.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, we were on a weekly format for a while. I found that the weekly format made the guys less committed.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get to the meeting next week. Oh, I'll get to the meeting next
Right.
week.
Yeah.
But the moment that I paused it for a little bit because I wanted to reinvent it a little more and get more engaged, raise the level of engagement. Because I found the same thing. The guys that stuck around, were engaged. The ones that didn't tended to fall off,
Yes.
and for one reason or another. But I find that the bi-weekly seems to be working well, and guys can schedule it now, and they know it's the second and the fourth Wednesday of the month at 7:00. Just put it in your calendar, and
That's
you're ready
great.
to rock, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty every second Thursday at 5:00 or whatever. It's pretty easy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got the secret on getting people to open up, and now I noticed also on your site there that you've been pretty much everywhere. So have you found that in terms of getting the message out and promoting and doing this men's work, have you found that you're also getting women coming to you saying, "Man, my man needs this help." And are you finding that that's also an area where you're finding growth in your men's work?
Yeah, I don't know if I could say that we're finding growth because, typically when your partner recommends something, you're going to feel more resistant to it. It's better if you hear it from a friend or something, but, or you come across it yourself. So we do have a lot of women reaching out saying, oh, my man would like this, or, hey, do you do women's groups? Where's the women's group version of this? Because I see a similar issue with the women's circle industry where it's like it's just a bunch of floaty cacao ceremonies and moon chanting and stuff, and that's cool because like my partner does that stuff, but it's like in a women's group she wants something a little bit more regimented. So a lot of women reach out about that, but honestly the guys that join are guys that are innocent, just realize that they need to make a change and that they don't have people around them who are supportive in that or who can relate, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because a lot of people aren't doing personal development. A lot of people aren't trying to overcome their challenges. They're just trying to go to work, go home, watch Netflix, space out, distract, you know? So most of the guys that come to us are very self-motivated.
Yeah, I think it's a key aspect that they have to bring to the table. Have to be willing to do that.
How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. It was the catalyst for my change, is that I just finally was fed up, you know, in my professional career, successful and was quite happy with it, but my personal life just sucked rocks. So things needed to change. And while I had a couple of buddies that are close, that I'm close to, the conversation you couldn't have that conversation with them. And there's nothing wrong with those guys. I love them to death. They're good buddies, but it wasn't what I was looking for. You know, they didn't know how to. I guess what I'm saying is, for men, I'm finding is that we just don't know how to have a conversation. No, we don't know how to have that level. I called, you know, the 5 levels of intimacy, right? Or expression. And that's that level 5 where you can be vulnerable enough that you can share your shit, knowing full well that your heart could get stomped on, you know, you could be laughed at, but you're willing to go there. And most guys are like at a level 3 where they're just pretending that they know a little bit about something, but they're not willing to really open up and say, yes, I'm having that experience.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if you have if you've seen that as well.
Yeah, I've seen that as well, you know, and it's unfortunate that guys they've been ridiculed for sharing that way their whole life. And then they have no positive male examples for how to communicate in that way.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of the reason why guys are flocking to things like men's groups, because they get to just sit there and watch how other guys communicate around this. I think that's one of the biggest benefits that I've heard of in our men's groups is guys say, wow, I actually learned how to communicate better with everybody in my life by just being a part of this group and even just sitting there quietly and listening.
Yeah, absolutely. You can learn a lot by just through modeling, right?
Yeah, just through modeling. And unfortunately, all the examples in pop culture and, you know, in the media, they're not really positive examples. So
yeah,
you got to model after. So you got to find role models somewhere, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like your take on men's groups not being so much about fluff, because I really think a lot of guys think that when you talk about men's group, and I've struggled with this in the Band of Brothers. Are we a men's group? Are we a men's circle? Are we a men's what? You know, and I think it's less about the semantics of it, and it's about what you're delivering at the table. And guys just need to know that it's And I know of some groups too where we're going to go out in the woods and, you know, and do that kind of stuff. That's not for everybody, but I think there's space for each kind of support system, right?
Yeah, I've seen those kookier things like really work well for a lot of guys. Sometimes a guy does need to get out of his shell, and maybe getting naked in the woods with a bunch of dudes and jumping in a cold river is exactly what he needs. That does sound like fun to me. I'm not gonna, you know, that in the right time in my life, sure, yeah, great. But like, is that how I want to invest the precious 2 hours we have all sitting in a circle together, from where we taking time from our busy lives and we all have these important matters we want to get into?
Yeah,
you know, fuck no.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So I guess it just depends on what you want, what your priorities are as a group. And also, I feel the same way as you. I'm not interested in the semantics or the conceptual side of it. So people ask me on podcasts a lot, what does it mean to you to be a man? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't think about that. I don't think about masculinity very much or to be a man, because what I've observed from running men's groups in my own life is that it's such an individual journey. These guys are struggling with individual problems, unique problems. You know, it's not I enjoy being a man as far as like having a deep voice and I can hit things in sports. And I like being a little bit more emotionally stable in the dynamic of our relationship. And because my partner is a bit more flowy and that works well. I like being the provider sometimes, but more of a traditional role, I guess. But I don't know. It's I don't think about being a man beyond that. I just more think about my challenges or my emotions or my growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so interesting that you mentioned that, because I know in the beginning of starting doing men's work, I was really interested in, you know, what is the definition of masculinity? What does that mean to me? Right, and the more that I got into this, I realized what truly is important is am I standing in my integrity? Is this
Yeah.
what I believe? That's more important about than whether I'm too masculine or not masculine. Oh, did I bring the enough femininity into my ass? That shit doesn't matter anymore. Am I showing up who I am today? Because tomorrow could be it'll be a different version, a little different
Yeah.
version. As I learn more, we grow more.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, actually. I never thought about it in that way, that, it will be a different version. How I think about it is like life is an inside job, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Like the real game is the inside. It's the emotions, it's your how you think, your self-talk, all that stuff. And a lot of people are focused on the external results, or are on creating external changes. Oh, if I get a new partner, I'll be happy. Oh,
Yeah.
if I get that car, I'll be happy, whatever. But it really is an inside job. And so I found that, if I get into that, the more that I get into that stuff, then the more solid I am
Yeah.
as a person, the more in alignment and integrity I am. And then by happenstance, I actually show up more masculine because I'm emotionally solid.
Yeah.
Like I'm not getting triggered by stuff. I'm not snapping on people after a few drinks and yelling. I'm not like the masculine. For me, the definition of masculine would probably be being emotionally solid, being emotionally unfazable. And the only way I've ever done that is like getting into my own emotions and like clearing them out and
Yeah.
paying attention to that part. So I think as a byproduct of getting into your own inner world and emotional exploration, and then self actualization, it's like masculinity is a byproduct.
Absolutely. Totally
You
is, right?
agree? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's because you've made the decision to do that shadow work.
Yeah.
That a lot of us, that seems to be a big catchphrase now in a lot of men's work, is doing that shadow stuff. And really, to me, that all that means is, am I willing to face the things that give me a high emotional charge and understand what's going on with that process, and whether you need to take that all the way back to a father wound or whatever it is. To me, it's the journey to that is more important than the actual outcome of it, because that's where we learn everything.
That's great. Yeah, for me, it just came down to real nuts and bolts, like a really simple process. It's like all that floofy language, like emotional awakeness or, consciousness or emotional intelligence. All it means to me is like, okay, if I start to feel emotional about something, instead of doing the thing that I usually do, which is like jerk off or Netflix or junk food or get angry or whatever, it's like, what I'll do is instead I'll step away from whatever situation I'm in, and I'll just sit there, and I'll just breathe into my body and be like, ooh, that I'll just hang out with those feelings. That's it. I just have been building a relationship with my feelings, and over time they'll come out. And then I notice that as they come out more and more, I'm less and less triggered by things that are going on in the world.
You betcha.
Yeah. And that's where you want to be, because then all of a sudden you are that solid, reliable friend or partner or dad. You're not like the grumpy dad, or you're not like the guy who gets sad over nothing, or, whatever.
Or the guy that never says anything.
Dad never says anything because he's shut down.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we've been doing this for a while now. Where do you see mensgroup.com evolving to, and where do you see yourself evolving to in the future?
Yeah, mensgroup.com is pretty new. It's only a year and a half old. So, we're still growing. I hope to launch my own podcast one day, perhaps, bringing guys like you on that are doing this kind of stuff. Yeah, and right now we just have so many groups going and so many great guys. And so it's about continuing to improve the value in our community, launch more. We have all these niche specific topic specific groups, like saving your relationship, or like how to build confidence, or how to get over porn addiction, or whatever. And it's just there'll be between 4 and 8 guys or 10 guys that show up on those. And so it's continuing to find ways to connect guys over their shared issues like that. Nice. I think that'd be the focus for me. And then who knows, eventually we might get back into adventure trips and stuff like that once COVID's behind us.
Yeah, for sure. Because you've had quite the athlete, the history there. As I was doing a little research for today, it's quite amazing the work that you've done.
Oh, that's funny. I appreciate you saying that, Elaine. That's really sweet to hear. But it's just because of where I grew up. I grew up in BC, Canada, and in Vancouver, and now I live in Squamish, which is the adventure sports capital of Canada, and you could argue North America. So this is just what my friends do. And so I don't feel like I'm athletic or accomplished doing surfing or kiteboarding or hiking or backcountry skiing or whatever, but those are just the activities that are popular around here. So that's what my friends and I go and do,
There you go.
But
Well,
it is a great way for guys to bond. So I'd love to start taking guys on adventures again, you know?
absolutely. That would be outstanding.
Yeah.
Well, being raised on the prairies, we get to watch our dog run away from us for days. So we don't have the entertainment that you'd have.
Yeah, man. And I just grew up playing hockey. So I didn't really get into the adventure sports stuff until I was later. And that's probably why I'm so into it now, because I feel like I missed out a little bit.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, prairie is totally a different place to grow up, man. But also, it's nice that it was quiet. You had space to like be a person and be a young man, you know?
Yeah, there's so much life experience I had from spending weekends on the farm and, you know, with my grandparents and just learning a lot about life. It was quite the experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, I've heard that you can learn a lot from living on a farm.
Yeah,
about life, even just from a little patch of dirt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, I want to say thank you so much, Sean, for spending time with me today and sharing a little bit about your story and what you're doing with mensgroup.com. That's the website. So I'll be sure to put that in our show notes today. Is there anything else that I can that you want to offer to our listeners today to get a chance to spend more time with you guys?
Yeah, I just encourage you, man. If you're listening and you're like, oh man, I got this challenge in my life, or maybe you've entered new territory, maybe you're a new dad, or you know, maybe somebody's passed away in your life for the first time, or whatever might have happened, or you might just even feel a little lonely, like you got a little too focused on work and family, like a lot of guys do, and you might not have friends. It's like, I want to encourage you to reach out and just like, to any tool that seems appealing. It could be a men's group, it could be coaching, it could be psychedelics, it could be a journaling, it could be books, podcasts, courses. Just like start taking steps to understand the inside, you know, the inner stuff, the inner journey, your emotions, your mindset, because working on that stuff, that's where the real gains are made in your life. And unfortunately, a lot of people ignore that, and so life gets harder and harder and harder because all the shit builds up inside them. But if it can go the other way too, where as you continue to walk through the world and you get triggered by stuff, as we all do, that's an opportunity to clear more bullshit out. And over time, you can even feel lighter and lighter and lighter, and life can feel like it's flowing. And relationships come easier, work can come easier, money can come easier. So I just encourage you to reach out and, you know, be a part of Elaine's group, or come check out the free men's groups we're doing over at mensgroup.com, or our free discussion community. You can just come to the website, throw in your email, and then boom, you're in the community, or anything that seems appealing. Just like, you know, a lot of people run away from this stuff because it's uncomfortable, but that is the true hero's journey, I think, for all of us, is to face that stuff that is inside of us and overcome it, and to lead more fulfilling lives.
Absolutely. Once again, thank you so much, Sean. This has been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Yeah, Elaine, you're the man. I appreciate what you guys are doing. Keep up the good work, eh?
Thanks, brother.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Evolving Man podcast. Are you ready to own your destiny? To become more the man you are destined to be? Join the brotherhood that is The Awakened Man at theawakenedman.net and start forging a new destiny today.